Skinwalkers. Now, this is something that comes up all the time. It seems to be, I'm just going to throw out my layman's understanding of it.
Sure.
It seems to be a bridge between supernatural and aliens. The Skinwalker Ranch, I'm not sure it's associated with UFO sightings, but I don't understand what that has to do with Native American spiritualism. It's a weird hodgepodge of stuff in my head. So,
kinda.
What is a Skinwalker?
So a Skinwalker is basically a werewolf, but it's, to break it down a little, it's a type of Native American shapeshifter. Specifically, it comes from Navajo culture. The idea is that some people who are trained as like healers and shamans get corrupted and do these horrible rituals to gain the shape-shifting power and basically use their powers for evil. In Navajo culture, you are not supposed to talk about skinwalkers. You're not supposed to think about skinwalkers, and they certainly don't like people who aren't Navajo talking about skinwalkers, so sorry. But it really kind of has entered the popular consciousness a little bit at this point.
Now, why is that? Is it a spiritual thing to them, or is it a fear-based thing? Or
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, the reason for outsiders is that basically they don't want people perverting and, more significantly, like profiting off of their myths, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Also, skinwalkers are supposed to be able to read minds, and the idea is that, if you go around talking about them, they might take exception to that.
I see. And you might draw their attention.
Right. So they have a slew of terrifying powers, but like Black-Eyed Children, there are a lot of accounts of skinwalkers online, many of which are not anonymous. When we had Linda Gottfried on talking about the Beast of Bray Road and Dogman,
right,
these came up. She said that she thought that maybe this, like when we asked, what do you think these Dogman sightings actually are, this is what she went to, is skinwalkers. Right. So here's a typical sighting.
Okay.
For some reason, these sightings always tend to happen on freeways. So these people are on a freeway. We crest the top of this hill, and down at the bottom of the hill, we see what appears to be a very large dog sitting back on its haunches in the middle of the road, facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio, "Hey, Trav, do you see that big-ass dog?" Travis starts yelling back over the radio, "That is not a dog. Speed up right now and hit it." He sounds almost hysterical. He just keeps screaming, "Hit it, you have to hit it, please, please hit it, right now." So my dad starts to speed up, and as we get a bit closer, I can begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, wiry, matted hair that appears to have dried blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns and looks at it, and it has a face. I don't know how else to describe it other than a mix between a bear's and a human's face. It looks twisted and distorted and almost in pain. As we get closer to this thing, we start to realize it's actually huge. Though it was still sitting on its haunches, it is about shoulder height with the hood of the truck. We get literally inches from hitting it when it lets out the scream that sounds like someone screaming as their lungs were filling with water, and it leaps backwards towards the field, landing just on our side of the barbed wire fence. Then with another leap, it was gone from sight. More stuff happens. Pretty soon we are speeding like crazy, and just as we start to come near the outskirts of Gallup, we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over with us. Naturally, this makes the cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge, and he immediately asks why Travis felt the need to pull over as well. Travis says, "We just saw a skinwalker a few miles back, and it's been following us." The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car, and takes off. We do the same.
Huh.
So that's a typical skinwalker sighting. They can take the forms of all kinds of animals, but generally, and there's pictures of them too, sort of, I don't know how much stock to put in the pictures, but they're generally described as looking wolf-like, huge, and, wrong in some way, sort of twisted or distorted, maybe with human-like features, just weird looking, not like a normal animal.
Right.
The first sighting in Skinwalker Ranch that gave it its name involved a giant wolf-like sort of wolf-bear thing eating some of their cattle. They shot it several times with 2 different firearms, and it was not only not killed, but was apparently completely uninjured, and it ran away.
And this is why Skinwalker Ranch is called Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah, so there were a few other sightings like that, but Skinwalker Ranch has tons of paranormal events of all kinds. But what gave it its name is the Skinwalker encounters, and it's right in the middle of Skinwalker territory. This is something that's very particular to the American Southwest. But
and I'm embarrassed to admit that, but is that where the Navajo are from?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So the American Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a wild one. So what's the association with UFOs? Just other paranormal things going on specifically
the association is not something...
Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah, the association is not from the Navajo. The association is basically from Skinwalker Ranch. That's why people associate the two, is because Skinwalker ranches have like weird lights and stuff.
Right.
And it's, for like white people, the most well-known example of Skinwalker legends. You know, that's kind of in the popular consciousness.
Well, I can see why the Navajo don't want it used, because that initial freeway story that you told me is like a great horror film.
Right. They're supposed to be able to keep pace with cars. They're supposed to be able to move 600 miles in a night.
Yeah.
You know.
And it would easily surpass the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me while driving, which is pretty terrifying. Me and my friend Jason were driving to Chico down the back roads from Redding, and it's pitch black. And Jason's driving like 60 miles an hour down these back roads. Which is
I know those
speed.
roads.
Yeah.
They're a little.
And all of a sudden, in the blackness in front of us is a large square, even blacker than the world around us.
That's weird.
And at the last minute, he swerves and misses what is a open dumpster facing us, where we would have driven into this dumpster at 60 miles an hour.
Not always
in
what
the
you
middle of
wanna
a
do.
black road in the middle of nowhere. So Skinwalker would outdo that.
Yes.
For me.
Yeah, and they're supposed to chase you. They're supposed to not like people seeing them. There's some varying theories, you know. Are these the actual people shapeshifted? Are they, as Linda Godfrey seemed to believe, sort of the spirit of this person, like projected out and given some form of semi-physical form?
Right.
It's worth noting, though, there's a ton of correspondences between skinwalkers in the Navajo legend and werewolves from the European legends. They're not supposed to be able to be killed by bullets. The Beast of Gavudan, popular werewolf legend, though some people think it was just a huge wolf, but in any case it killed 113 people in France in the 18th century. It was shot several times. It was never hurt until it was finally shot with a silver bullet, which is the origin of that legend. Awesome. Skinwalkers aren't supposed to be able to be killed by anything other than a white ash bullet, a bullet dipped in white ash. So take that for what you will.
So I found that with indigenous, aboriginal folklore in general, that these situations tend to have purpose.
Yes.
Or these spirits tend to have purpose. Is there a purpose associated with the Skinwalker? Is it associated with...
Well, these aren't spirits. That's what makes them scary. They're people.
Oh, they're actual physical entities.
They aren't entities. They are human beings who have learned to take on this animal form.
Oh.
That's what's so freaky about them.
Right.
So, you know, what's the purpose of a human being?
But the Navajo consider them to be bad guys.
Yes, they...
Not good guys.
Yes, being a skinwalker is supposed to be... is the antithesis of everything that is, like, good in Navajo culture. You're not supposed to be a skinwalker. That's a very bad thing to be.
Bad to be a skinwalker. All right. All right. Well, have fun getting to sleep tonight. You've been listening to Radio Wasteland. A lot of black-eyed kids, a lot of skinwalkers, a lot of terrifying stuff.
Indeed.
And if you're at all like me, you have plenty of stuff to think about to tickle the imagination.
Put some Skinwalker Ranch on that salad.
Yep. God. All right. You've been listening to Radio Wasteland.